because really the only reason to have a standalone credit card terminal is for one-time payments where patients are physically showing up and handing you a card. And so if that goes against your model of creating a frictionless payment experience in your practice because you want a high retention practice, there's no reason to have a standalone credit card terminal by itself in your office. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Holly Jensen, Chief Operations Officer here at Chiropractic Systems. And today's webinar is titled Beyond the Swipe, Protecting Your Practice from Merchant Account Theft and Embezzlement. And with me today is our founder and CEO, Dr. Miles Bodson, and we're going to be going over a lot of different information that you need to know to protect your practice from fraud and embezzlement in regards to your merchant accounts. We're going to go over some common tactics that are used by fraudsters and embezzlers that target your practice. We're going to go over different effective measures that will help you prevent unauthorized access to your merchant accounts. And we'll go over some best practices for detecting and responding to potential suspicious activity. And then we'll dive into how to choose a secure payment processor that aligns with your practice's needs. So, Dr. Bodson, thank you so much. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Holly. Thanks as always for the welcoming and such a great job giving everybody a preview of what we're going to cover today. Yeah. It's one of those topics that it's like I always think of this kind of topic as sort of like talking about life insurance. Nobody wants to talk about the need for life insurance, but it's a requirement. It's like one of these things that you need to talk about. It's just one of those subjects, and this is one of them. And I know there's listeners going, well, what do we have to worry about with merchant accounts? Like, what are you talking about? Like, we're in a position where we have doctors who come to us and share stories with us. And there's been dozens of stories shared with us of doctors who've had a lot of money stolen from them. And we want to share with you some of the lessons we've learned with these doctors and, the solutions around it. But it's unfortunate this stuff happens. And we figured let's put together a webinar, kind of summarize it all for you guys. So you have one resource you can go to that kind of teach you about how does this happen? How do you prevent it? Especially in today's world with everybody's so used to doing things online and clicking on links and using username and passwords, and people are just so comfortable with all this kind of stuff, and it's easy to get lazy around some of these things. So it's really important that we kind of I know we as a company, Chiropractors, we internally once a year at a minimum do internal training on security and on making sure things are staying safe and secure, and we're not getting lazy ourselves, and we want to pass some of that information on to you guys as well.
Yeah. So, Dr. Bodson, let's first share with our audience, who are these embezzlers that they could potentially have in their practice?
Yeah, we often think of the thief as like this person hiding in the night who's going to sneak in or
wearing ninja clothes.
Yeah, exactly. That's not who we're talking about. It's sort of like, well, I'll just tell you, generally what we see, and this isn't to point out any specific person, that's not the intention here, but we'll just share with you what we commonly see. When it comes to embezzling from a practice, quite frankly, the most common culprits is usually a team member or a staff person or employee, I guess, whatever you want to refer to them as, employee of the company, where they don't have the best intentions. And maybe they don't realize they're doing, well, no, they realize, I shouldn't say that. They realize they're doing something wrong. And that's generally the story that's brought to us, is someone will call us. And when they call in regarding this scenario, is they'll, not a member of ours, someone who is, calling us to get a problem solved, they'll come to us sharing, they had $10,000, $15,000. The worst case we had was someone who had over $100,000 stolen from them, from an employee. And in that particular case, it so happened to be a family member in that case, which is really god awful. But nonetheless, that's where the culprit is not this stranger. It's not someone breaking into your office. It's not cyber crime that someone's hacking into your system. Generally, it's someone right under your nose who has access to your systems that's embezzling from you. And we'll share with you, how do they do that? How do they embezzle money from you? And that's what we're going to kind of go through today.
Yeah. And yeah, really, unfortunately, it could be anybody that you employ, or a past employee that you've given access to your login credentials or things like that in the past. But also it's
Well,
employees.
Holly, you just brought up something. I'm going to pause you just right because you just now brought up something. You said past employees that you gave a login credential. So I know we were going to talk about this, but you just kind of teed it up perfectly, and I'm going to just put it in right now. And that is whatever system you're using in your office, whatever systems, whether it's your EHR, if you're a member of Cash Practice and you're using our system, or whether you're using another system for payment processing, whatever it is vitally, vitally important that each of your employees has their own username and password to log into that system, that you're not sharing like you're not sharing one account for everybody to use the same. And unfortunately, we see cases where their office get lazy and they just create one username and password and everybody shares and everybody logs in with it. And maybe you don't realize they can log into that potentially when they're at home. They can literally from home get on the internet and log into that cloud platform if you're using a cloud platform. So it's really, really important that whatever systems you're using, that every employee has their own username and password that you can easily disable if you had to. And not only that, when they're logged into that system, it's really important that permissions are granted to them to only do the things they're allowed to do, and that permissions for them, the things they're not supposed to be doing, they don't have those permissions. So at a bare minimum, you want to make sure every employee has their own username and password for all systems you use, as well as it should allow you to track. Like that system should keep record of who's doing what in that system. So that's really, really an important thing. And the other thing I'll mention is you mentioned like a past employee. Like if you have someone who is fired or removed, you have to have in place a system to immediately terminate their access to those systems. I know here at Cash Practice, I'll share with you, we've had employees come and go over the years, just like any company. And one of the things that always happens is as soon as that employee is being either terminated or they put in their resignation, whatever it is, there's someone in HR immediately disabling their access to systems. And that should be the case in your place, that you want to make sure that, you brought up past employees. I know we weren't even really planning on talking that. As soon as you said that, though, it triggered in me. That's something that's important that you realize that you have the ability to remove their access to those.
Yeah. Well,
Things.
it's no different than, if you terminated an employee, you change your alarm code to your office, either replace your locks and get rekeyed or they turn in their key. So you're doing those other things. This is the other layer that you need to do.
Well, you just, again, as you bring up these things, these weren't on our agenda, but we've run a practice before, so we know this stuff. You just brought up something about front door locks, like has nothing to do with software, but your employees' keys that you give them to unlock the door should be do not copy keys. Like there's something as simple as that the keys you give out employees to access your practice, if you give them a key, they should be those keys that say do not copy, so they can't make copies of those, as an example. So you want to think about worst case scenario, but we're not talking about that right now. What we're talking about is an employee who's working in your office right now, someone who's there now, and they have access to your system. So we'll assume we're not talking about people who are outside of your practice, inside the practice. Let's talk about now what happens, what goes wrong, what causes the breakdown.
Let's talk about these common tactics that are being used with traditional merchant accounts. Let's start there.
So as I say this, there's kind of an underlying theme here. And the underlying theme is the doctor, the owner of the clinic, someone gets lazy in checking things. They're not, when it comes to security and this type of stuff, it's really important to have what's called checks and balances, that there is a second set of eyes looking at everything. It isn't just one set of eyes in charge of everything. There's a second set of eyes reviewing it. So when we say the doctor gets lazy, they're not checking their merchant statements to see that the deposits match what they should be. Or it all goes back to, at the end of the day, that your end of day report that you run in the practice matches the money you collected. And that deposit that represents that end of day is what actually ends up in the bank account, that you're accounting for refunds. You're accounting for all this stuff so that what you actually see arrive in the bank account matches what it should have been. And there's a number of things that happen throughout the course of the day. For example, cash. Let's just talk about this for a second. something as basic as cash. Holly, we've had stories, nothing to do with your merchant account, but there were stories of cash goes missing. And how is that happening? How are we hearing that happens?
So there was somebody who worked at the front desk, and they told patients that their credit card payment system was down and that patients needed to pay cash. So the assistant collected cash over the counter, recorded the payment into the EHR patient ledger, printed out the end of day report showing this money was collected, but then after the reports were printed so that whoever's reviewing it is like, yeah, that looks good, went back into the ledgers and deleted all of the cash payments and then put that money in her pocket.
And here's the thing. I'm guessing in that scenario that whoever was looking at that end of day report, somehow they were not matching the actual cash that was collected. There was no reconciliation of the cash at the end of the day. I remember back in the day when people worked at, a storefront, there was always accounting of the money in the cash register drawer before someone else took over the job, right? Before a shift was changed, they made sure the drawer balanced against what the receipts showed as an example. That's an example where there's not a second set of eyes looking at things. So there's an example of cash. Let's talk about the other merchant accounts, because that's ultimately what we're here to primarily focus on. So when it comes to the merchant processing, here's how. Let me kind of just share with you how fraud happens. The first way is with what we call the traditional merchant account. So what is the traditional merchant account? That's where you go to your bank, you go to Costco, you go to some of the players in chiropractic, and I can share some of those with you, that offer you a traditional credit card terminal. So what does that mean? You get a terminal that sits on your desk, it plugs into the internet, or it plugs into your phone outlet, and it talks to the bank and you run payments on it. The thing that I want to point out is that terminal does not talk to any software on your computer. So it's not communicating with your computer. It's not tied to your POS system. It's not tied to your EHR. It's just a standalone credit card terminal that you can literally just plug into the wall and accept payments.
It's basically a pinless ATM machine sitting at your front desk.
And what Holly's referring to there is that when you have that terminal, of course, you can run payments on it all day long, right? You could swipe it and $50, $60, you can run payments. But when it comes to extracting money out of an account or stealing money, what happens is the employee either takes their own credit cards or friends' credit cards, and they will swipe those terminals for refunds. So think about that for a minute. They say, I need to run a refund, $50. Well, what do? They take out a credit card, they swipe it on that terminal, put in $50, and suddenly there's a refund on that credit card. So they've basically pulled money out. So when Holly says it's a pinless ATM, in essence, it allowed them to extract money from your bank account with no PIN number required, no security measures in place to prevent them from doing that. And what ends up happening is now they have that credit on their credit card, and they go to the bank and either withdraw the money or spend the money however they want on their credit card. But the bottom line is they pulled that $50 out of your bank account. Now, if you, the doctor, are not paying attention to this, if you are not looking at your statements and balancing things, this could be happening to you all day long, that maybe you collected $1,000 in payments that day, but there was $50 in refunds. Now that's $950, right? That's what it should have been. 1,000, I said, it's nine, and $950 ends up in your bank. But if you're not taking the time to say, well, that $950, that doesn't make sense, that ended in my bank, it should have been $1,000. You don't know that because you're not reconciling the fact you collected that money and that's what should end up in the bank account. You see a $950 deposit, you think everything's fine. You see that money, you see money going into your account. You don't recognize that there's been some money extracted prior to that deposit happening to your bank account. So these traditional terminals that you go and get at Wells Fargo or like anything, that you just purchase and plug into your wall, those are really designed for businesses that don't have employees. That's really what they're designed for. They're not really designed for you to have where multiple people have access to them because of this mere fact. Let me illustrate my point. When you go to a big box store, let's say Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and you want to do a refund, how do they do it? Do they ask for the credit card for you to swipe? No. What do? They ask for a copy of the receipt or the receipt, and they scan the barcode on the receipt to locate the original transaction and then refund money back to the original card used to make the transaction happen to begin with. And if you don't have the receipt, they'll often be able to look up the transaction based upon the credit card number. Like you give them your credit card number, they look for the original transaction.
Or they'll give you store credit.
Or at a minimum, they'll give store credit, but they're certainly not going to put credit on arbitrary credit on a random credit card. This is to prevent this exact scenario of theft occurring. The way they prevent that is, again, they have to find the original transaction. So if the original transaction was for $100 on the card ending in 1234, well, when they refund it, they're going to just put $50 or $100, whatever it is, back on the card that ends in 1234. There's no way to just give them, your own credit card, or the employee to give them their own credit card to put that refund on. And the reason they do that is part of it's for inventory control, but a major portion of it is for security, to make sure there's no theft occurring. So the way we commonly see when doctors come to us and share stories of money being stolen from, this is probably one of the most common ways we hear of it, is that they used a traditional credit card terminal that was not connected to any software or EHR, and that terminal allowed them to run random refunds, and nobody was checking it. So that's number one. So if you have a terminal in your office, first question to ask yourself is, can people just run refunds by swiping an arbitrary credit card? If they can, it's a red flag to remove that terminal from your office. That's not a secure thing. It's basically, like Holly just said, a pinless access, or pinless ATM machine that gives you access to that bank account without any kind of security measures in place. And that's go ahead.
If your thief is smart enough, they're not using their own card or their friend's card that has a name attached to that card where they're running the refunds. Now what they're doing is they're going to Walmart and they're buying like those Visa gift cards, and they're just loading the money on those because those aren't associated with anybody's name. So
exactly. So any way they can do the refund under that card. So with that being said, I want to go back to the earlier point we made about controlling what your employees have access to do and permissions. The system you use should have controls on which employees are even allowed to do refunds. Meaning, you might have 5 employees, but only the office manager is given the permission to actually do a refund. That employees just sitting at the front desk who are just, that's not their role, they don't have the ability to do it. Maybe that, again, you want to have that in control of a very limited number of people.
I'll also add, you want to make sure with those permissions that like your terminal will allow you to refund any arbitrary amount, whereas there's software out there that you can get, including ours, that will only let you refund up to the original amount.
That's a great point, Holly. So let's say, for example, they want to do a refund and they have to locate the original transaction, which was $100. The maximum refund that can be put on that card is $100. You can't do more than that. For example, let's say the employee takes their own credit card and says, oh, I'm going to run a $100 transaction on my card, but I'm going to go back now and access that transaction and refund it, and I'm going to refund myself $1,000 as an example. They can't do that, right? They can only refund up to the amount of the original transaction on the original card. So again, it's this most secure way of doing it. Now, you cannot do that with a standalone traditional terminal. You can only do that if you're using a software application that gives you those capabilities. And Cash Practice, again, our system, which of course we endorse, it does that. These are things that we take into consideration, that we give you the ability to control the permissions of what your employees can and can't do. Voids and refunds is one of the major ones that we emphasize. We emphasize that every employee should have their own username and password, so you're able to track that. And only refunds can be done against the original transaction up to the dollar amount that was the original transaction. So these security measures are put in place. Not only that, I'll mention one other, is that when we're creating permissions for an employee, we can actually control what days and times they're allowed to log in. So if you have an employee that only works Monday, Wednesday, Friday, well, there's no reason for them to have access to your systems on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. So especially if you're using a cloud-based system that's on the internet, right? They're at home sitting on their phone. Do you want them to access your system on their phones at home on Tuesdays? Like, if not, then you want to control what days and times they're allowed to log in into that platform. So that's your traditional. Going back to your traditional, it's your standalone credit card terminal. At one point in time, we've all had them. You hopefully don't have one now, but if you do, that's a red flag. Unless you're just a practitioner by yourself. We're talking about the environment. Obviously, you're not going to steal from yourself. Okay. So,
I
although
love
I will say something about that. Let me just say something real quick. Did you know it's not permitted that when you have a merchant account for you to use your own personal credit card on that merchant account, for you to say, I want to do a refund of $1,000 on my own credit card or run $1,000 payment. Like you're not supposed to be. Let me give you an example. Someone says, I have a merchant account. Let's say you, the doctor, have it, and you say, I need a cash advance. I need $1,000. Well, one way for you to theoretically do that would be for you to put $1,000 refund on your own credit card, right? Out of your business, right? Your business pays you, or your merchant will pay you the $1,000 under your credit card, and theoretically, that's giving you the cash to go use. Okay, that would be one way of extracting it. Another way of doing it is not doing a refund, is actually saying, I'm going to take my $1,000 or my credit card, and I'm going to run it for $1,000, and that money will show up in my business bank account. You've basically taken a cash advance on your own credit card, and if you do that and you get caught with it, you can literally lose your merchant account. The merchant company could literally shut you down for extracting money out of your own credit card by personally withdrawing money that way. So just a little side note. That's not really embezzlement, but that's just kind of another side thing you should be aware of.
Let's transition now and talk. Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I want to point out is for those of you with that standalone credit card terminal in your office, I want you to think about your practice model. Do you want to be seeing patients like recurring? Do you have lifetime or wellness practice members, or are you just seeing patients one at a time? There's really no treatment plan, because really the only reason to have a standalone credit card terminal is for one-time payments where patients are physically showing up and handing you a card. And so if that goes against your model of creating a frictionless payment experience in your practice because you want a high retention practice, there's no reason to have a standalone credit card terminal by itself in your office.
What Holly's Claire was saying here is that one of the things we advocate at Cash Practice, and it's not necessarily something we're addressing in today's webinar, but the thing we advocate is having cards on file and auto recurring payments. That's a big part of building a very high retention based practice where people are with you for a long time. And that's a whole webinar in itself of just talking about retention and how important cards on file are and monthly payments and recurring payments are. With that being said, a terminal is not really what you use for that, right? You're putting cards in generally for cards on file, you're going to use a software program that stores all that card information in a secure format, etc. Again, Cash Practice's auto-debit system allows you to do that. But for the terminal itself, again, one thing we're commonly hearing today with terminals is doctors want to be able to say, oh, I want to do Apple Pay, and people want the convenience of that. And again, it kind of goes back to, well, why? Why do you want that when a card on file is so much better for you to do in running the practice? So with that being said, let's move on to the next way embezzlement happens.
Yes, this one's pretty scary. It's using an aggregated merchant account. So if you could talk about what that is and how it's being done.
So aggregated merchant account. So this is not your traditional merchant account, that you get at Wells Fargo or the bank, whatever. A aggregated merchant account is commonly, the companies that do this are Stripe, Square are the two big ones. And what that means is, what is an aggregated merchant account? When you apply to get, a Square account, for example, you're not really getting a merchant account. What you're doing is your business is being added to a group of business, hundreds of business who all share one merchant account. Now on the back end, they have a way of basically dividing that money up along all the businesses, but all these businesses are basically sharing one big merchant account. That's why it's called aggregated. It's all one. Now, where the security issue comes into place is it's not so much that you're sharing a merchant account. I don't think you have to worry about, your money going to the different business. We're not talking about that type of thing. What we're referring to is as though when it comes to getting these aggregated accounts, so if you go to Square and you want to sign up for one, and your business, let's say, is called the Chiropractic Wellness Center or whatever it is, Acme 123, whatever your business is called, there are probably a million companies with the same name. Like if you go and register your business name with Square called the Chiropractic Wellness Center, I guarantee you there's probably dozens, if not hundreds of other chiropractic wellness centers in Square. With that being said, it's because they don't care what business you call it. You can call it whatever you want. So how does this open you up to fraud? The way it opens you up to fraud is you have an employee at your front desk who knows you have a Square account that you run your practice on Square using Chiropractic Wellness Center. So what does your employee do? Well, they decide they're going to open up their own Square account using the name Chiropractic Wellness Center. Exact same business name. It's just that it's tied to her bank account or his bank account versus the practice's bank account. So now what happens is employees deciding they want to steal from a specific patient or from the office, I should say. Patient comes in, they hand the credit card, pay the $50, and instead of the employee swiping it on the office's Square account, they swipe it on their own personal Square account. Now what happens? Well, as far as the employee is they're getting the money, but as far as the patient's concerned, they don't know any different, because what does the receipt say that the patient gets? Chiropractic Wellness Center. As far as they know, everything's right. They got a receipt for $50 for the Chiropractic Wellness Center, and the employee ended up receiving the money. And as far as the practice knows, they don't even know the transaction happened. So that's how it's happening, basically. That's exactly how it happens, is the employee sets up a Square account in their own, using their own banking in the name of the practice. That's how it happens. Now, the way you stop that from happening is you have to make it very clear that your practice, you yourself don't use Square. But that's not enough, because that doesn't necessarily stop an employee from actually having a Square account independent of you, right? So you have to make it clear in your office that your office does not use Square. So we recommend you have some kind of signage in the office saying, and I don't even know exactly what the word should be, whether it should be we don't use Square or we use the following way. But Holly, we probably should come up with some language if we're going to talk about this for
your
use.
financial policy is you automate the way payments are being collected.
Thank you.
On file. So, and I want to just talk about the reason why these aggregated merchant accounts like Square or Clover or Stripe are so easy to get is because there's no verification or qualification process. These are literally meant for small businesses, farmers markets. It's for that one person, the hobbyist. It's not meant to run a growing practice.
Correct. If you're going to be like, you're a hair salon and you're an independent contractor by yourself working at the salon. Like when I go to the barber, my barber pulls out his phone and he swipes the card because they all collect their own money at the barber shop, right? There isn't a centralized collection. It's all independent. So that's an example of where that comes into play. It doesn't really have a role inside of the practice. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, with Square, I can get a POS system and they have software tied to it and, all these other controls. That may be true, but it's still a Square account, which means an employee can still open up a Square account and mimic what you're doing. So again, the bottom line is we encourage you to use a more secure, robust system. And again, I go back to is you're sharing your merchant account. It's not your own independent merchant account, right? It's not something you take with you. It belongs to a large group. And if something does go wrong with one of the other businesses, potentially it will shut down that merchant account and interrupt your business. So that's not to scare you. Like, listen, they've been around forever. Square and Stripe and Clover and all these companies, they do it. They serve a great purpose. We just don't think it's the right thing to be using in your particular practice. I also know there's some EHRs, that have been built where they've built in Stripe or even Square. And as I understand, they're now pulling away from those things and building in other merchant processing moving away from the Squares and the Stripes. Not only that, but they tend to be higher fees. There tends to be, along with convenience comes usually higher fees. And that's usually what's going on with some of these as well, is that you're getting dinged on your fees. So that's that.
I want to talk about, it doesn't really have to do with merchant processing, but let's just touch very quickly on paper checks.
Okay, paper checks, again, kind of like cash and, key at the front door. With paper checks, the challenge here is that, I'll give a quick story. I don't know how many people are actually using paper checks, but I remember back in the day, having a book of business paper checks at our practice, and an employee we caught stealing some checks and actually, forging signatures and stealing money, writing checks. Not a lot. Fortunately, it wasn't a lot of money, but nonetheless, this person took checks out of the practice and stole them. Another thing that can happen is you got to be aware of, like, when we talk about extracting money, if you're using an EFT system for doing electronic funds transfer from bank accounts where they use a routing number and account number, you got to protect that for refunds just like you do with credit cards. Meaning, if you're using a system, like, I'll give an example. I've logged into the back end of some merchant processor software. some software that you use to run, nothing to do with cash practice, just completely, it's provided by the bank. The bank says, we give you the ability to do EFTs, and you log into their application and do it. And to my surprise, not only do they let you, collect money from a person. So let's say, Holly, you were my customer, and you gave me a routing number and account number. I could put it in and collect $100 from you. But to my surprise, with a drop-down menu, I could also take it where I give you $100, where I can literally send you $100 using that system. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, if I have an employee that logs into that system, theoretically, they can say, well, I'm going to put in my routing number and account number, and I'm going to transfer $1,000 to me, to the customer, instead of from the customer. So it's really important that even with your electronic funds transfer, again, routing number and account number, which is like a check, that your system does not allow these kind of refunds or pushing money out to the customer versus only pulling money in to the business. That's something I want to mention. Besides just physical checks, physical checks being able to be, stolen from a practice. So
yeah, I'll add, if you're accepting paper checks from your patients as payment, a lot of times, especially our seniors, they might write out the check, but they leave the to blank, and they want you to fill it in or assume you have a stamp you're going to put on it. But guess what else we hear? Employee takes the check, writes in cash, takes it to the bank, and cashes it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we've seen that
you
too.
want to make sure that if you are accepting checks, your financial policy is you'll use the routing number and account number off of that check and set up an online bank EFT that automates the way those funds are being withdrawn, and it's from the practice specifically, and it has permissions around it.
Correct. That's a good standard operating procedure. But all of these things kind of also come back to, at the end of the day of any day on that practice, you should be looking at the day sheet, which is a summary of all the money you collected, how much cash, how much checks, how much insurance, how much, a credit card, etc. I know what we used to do is we took all of that, we did an accounting of that. Then you make sure you physically count the cash, you physically go through the checks, you physically go through all the credit card receipts, like you are physically going through all that, and you're making sure that what you actually got matches what it should be. So if you're doing that, 99% of the stuff you will prevent. Just that alone is just making sure a set of eyes is looking at everything.
Yeah. And
the only difference with credit cards is you want to make sure that what you actually show in your software is actually what ends up in the bank account, because you're not actually physically depositing that, right? If you have checks, like you can hold them in your hand and go deposit them or do the electronic funds transfers. But when it comes to credit cards, you got to actually see that deposit up and deposit ending up in your bank account.
Yeah. And what you said is a really good point, Dr. Bodson. If your employees are aware that there's checks and balances and you really are doing it, you're not lazy about it, and you're questioning things that don't look right, then that alone is going to deter you from opening yourself up to theft and embezzlement.
Right. Yeah.
It's ones who get lazy and just don't really look at things, or they occasionally look at things, and you just happen to look at it on a good day. And then before you know it, years go by and somebody's embezzled thousands and thousands of dollars from you. Before we got on this webinar, you brought up a really good point to me. It has nothing to do with merchant account theft and embezzlement, but it is another way for employees to steal, and that's with time.
Yeah, so it's funny. Yeah, as soon as we got on the subject, all the wheels started turning of all the different ways you have to protect yourself. And one of them is, something you probably don't think about, but I'll use the analogy that if you were spending an extra, $1, let's say every time you went to Starbucks or whatever, you didn't realize it, but they were charging you an extra $1 every time you bought a cup of coffee, and you went and got coffee 5 times a week. Well, over the course of a year, that's going to add up to hundreds of dollars that you overspent on coffee, right? Because they overcharged you $1. Well, the analogy being is, when it comes to your employees, if they're not salary, if they're on an hourly wage and they're basically paid for their clock in time, if you are not using a proper time clock and have policies and procedures in place to make sure they're clocking in when they're supposed to, they're not clocking in early, they're not clocking out late, they're clocking in and out for their breaks or whatever, their lunch breaks, everything's being done accurately. If you don't have those in place, or you're just manually doing, we have people write things down. The thing that happens is, it routinely happens, it's just human nature. People will round up, they'll round up the next 10 minutes, they'll round up the next 15 minutes, whatever it is on their time. And it may not seem like a lot, but we've looked at this, and I've worked with other companies who've really looked at this, people in the time and attendance world. It literally adds up if you have multiple employees and everybody's doing this, these little round offs can literally add up to thousands and thousands of dollars embezzled from the company. And I think it was embezzlement because it's not truly earned wages, right? They just round it up just for maybe your convenience, or maybe they're doing it on accident. Who knows? Or they're doing it on purpose. And those little minutes add up. And imagine having 5 employees and everybody on average is rounding up 5 to 10 minutes every shift. You do the math over the course of a year, it literally adds up to thousands of dollars that the practice loses. And I think of that as it's embezzled, right? It's money that shouldn't have been paid out. So not only is it the wages, but it's the taxes and everything, the work comp insurance and all the other stuff that you have to pay based upon those wages. So if your employees are hourly, it's really, really important you're using a really good, solid time and attendance system. But it's not just the system, the software. And by the way, at Cash Practice, when you're using our auto-debit system, we provide, because this is so important, we actually provide free access to a time and attendance system for you. We have a partner called UAttend, who is you can go on their website, they sell their time and attendance services, to the world. They have thousands and tens of thousands of clients. As a Cash Practice member, when you're doing business with us, doing your payment processing, you actually get an account with them for free, which is probably about a $20, $30 per month value to your practice. But we take it seriously because those dollars add up. In fact, they are the ones that have done studies that have shown us, they're the ones that actually taught us about this, about the money you potentially are losing in that scenario. So,
yeah, I'll add with that, with the UAttend's time and attendance system that we provide for our payment processing clients. You can make it permission based. They can only log in on the physical time clock in your office using the last 4 digits of their social security code or a biometric scan, or they can only log in from a web browser at the front desk computer. You don't have apps allowing your employees to punch in, because you know what, if you look at the geolocation, it might show they clocked in when they were still at home and it took them 30 minutes to get to the office. So you want a robust time and attendance system. And I do want to clarify for our viewers today, at Cash Practice Systems, our auto debit system is for payment processing, whatever you could think of. One-time payments, yes, we have credit card terminals, but those terminals are attached to the software, permission-based, and they don't allow arbitrary refunds, so they deter theft and embezzlement. We also have credit card readers to swipe physical cards. We allow you the ability to store cards on file, multiple cards on file, in a billing vault, and automate either the one-time payment or recurring payments. We also have secure online payment forms. So if you need to collect payments online or send out a text or an email, our platform provides those secure online payment forms. So we do everything to help your practice thrive and grow in a secure environment. And furthermore, employees have their own individual logins with individual permissions. And like we just talked about, the UAttend time and attendance system is included for our auto debit system subscribers. So Dr. Bodson, I'm going to ask you to share your screen, and you prepared just a couple of slides to illustrate a point, and then we have a special offer that we'd like to give out.
Sure. Okay. So Holly, I'm going to just kind of briefly go through this. We just talked about these, the ways embezzlement happens. And the question is, are all payment processors the same? Well, as I go through this, let me just share with you. We mentioned what aggregated accounts are. Aggregated are your Square and your Stripe. That's one form of merchant account. Really, again, not designed for the chiropractic practice. Again, this is for the mom and pop shop, the craft fair person, the barber shop, that type of thing. It's really not designed for the practice. Then you have the traditional credit card processors. Again, we mentioned these are your bank company, your bank accounts. I'm sorry, your banks, Costco. These are the places that sell, share with you a terminal. The big ones that we'll mention, and before I do, I'll just share with you when it comes to choosing, because there's a lot of them out there to choose from. There's, a lot of different processors. And again, Cash Practice is one of them. I always go back to is how do you make your decisions on who you buy, what you buy and who you do business with. And I know a lot of chiropractors are really big in getting good Google reviews to make sure your practice is at the top of Google's listings. And, you have 100 5-star reviews versus, 100 2-star reviews, right? We all are looking for great reviews. And I know what I do when I go on Amazon, and like you, I'm sure you do this as well. I go on Amazon to purchase something and I look at the reviews. I look at whether or not it's a 5-star product, a 4-star product, or is it getting 1 and 2-star ratings? And I think I'm going to guess that if I asked you how you made your decision on what you're purchasing, if you saw something that had 2.5 stars versus 4.5 stars, which one are you buying? If it's a similar product, odds are you're buying the one with the higher ratings. And I think that's true across the board, that people look at reviews, they look at ratings. That's how they make their decisions. The challenge, though, is that for whatever reason, when it comes to payment processors, we find all the time doctors are coming to us comparing us to other processors in chiropractic, and they haven't done the same exercise. They haven't gone through the process saying, well, they're just looking at bottom line, like who's cheaper, without necessarily looking at the reputation of the company or the reviews of that company. And in chiropractic, the two big ones that we see that often we're being compared to are both Fortis and Global Pay. I'm sure you know who they are. They're big players in the chiropractic field, both Fortis and Global Pay. But if you look at their reviews and you do the same kind of analysis comparing, them as a product versus something else, you should clearly see that the reviews are not great. Like Fortis has got 811 reviews at the time we looked at this, and this was not that long ago. 811 reviews, and they averaged 3 stars. How do you average 3 stars when you have 811 reviews? Well, it means you have a lot of 5-star reviews and you have a ton of 1-star reviews. That's how it happens. That's how you average a 3. Or if you look at Global Pay, now this is only 37 reviews, but of the 37, they're only 2.5 stars is what they're rating. Commonly what we see, and again, this isn't to throw them under the bus. This is just reality. You can go look at this on your own. I'm just sharing with you what you should be doing when you're comparing things is look at what others are saying. If we look at Fortis and go out there, I've highlighted a couple of them here. You could go on your own and look at them. You could scan the QR code there and go look at this publicly on the internet yourself. This is nothing that we've, pulled, gathered. This is just out there.
Yeah, it's
just sharing a URL and what's being said out there. Clearly, people are not happy with the service. Now, here's generally what we see. Both Global Pay and Fortis, I am sure their software is good. I've no doubt it is. These are major companies, $100 million companies that have plenty of resources to build great software. The challenges we routinely see being presented to us, not just here, but also when people come to us and talk to us, and they say, listen, I'm having headaches over there. It's always over customer service. It always is. It's never not that. It's literally always because of the fact that they can't get their questions answered. They're having issues and they can't get problems solved, whatever it is, and they're pissed and they just can't get the service they need. And you can go read it yourself. And there's the QR code for you to go check them out. So if you're comparing us to Fortis, please compare side by side the reviews of what's going on. Same thing with Global Pay. Global Pay is another big player in the chiropractic field. And the same thing, when you go online and look at the reviews are not very complimentary to their service and their products. And generally it has to do with, again, service as well as hidden fees. They're not, what they're being told is not actually what's happening. Versus when you compare them to Cash Practice, again, we're not really what you call the traditional suite of tools. And we're what we call a business growth suite. Cash Practice falls in this category because not only are we payment processing, but we provide a whole suite of tools, all designed to help you grow the practice. But if you're comparing reviews, when you look at us here, we're well over 180 reviews here, and we're across the board 5 stars. And the only way that happens is literally everybody's rating you 5 stars. Nobody's rating you less than that. And I'm very proud to show that if you go on our website or you go on and take a look at our Cash Practice reviews across the board, over and over and over, people have just nothing but stellar things to say about us. For example, we use Cash Practice for more than 5 of our businesses, 5 practices. We love how user-friendly the software is. The staff and team have exceptional customer service and response times. You will see that kind of statement over almost every one of our reviews refers to our team and the customer support you get. Here's another one. We've used Cash Practice for more than 10 years, and they're amazing. The online tools are so easy to use, best processing we've ever experienced. Thank you, Cash Practice. And we can go on and on and on with the testimonials from our clients and doctors, not just having great experience with our service and our product, but literally having an impact on their practice and seeing the growth. I mentioned Cash Practice is a business growth suite. So again, when it comes to payment processing, for example, Dr. Felicity here, who has care plans, and when she came to us doing care planning, she shared with us that her acceptance rate of care plans was around 20%. That was her own words. She goes on to say, where after learning the things that we shared with her in this business growth suite, she grew in her statement here was 97% enrollment rate with her care plans. Or Dr. Michelle Wozniak, whose retention, her PVA, went from around 12 to 15 to around 50. And I know it's higher than that today because this was recorded a number of years ago. Or Dr. Jason Day here, who now is converting over 90% of his patients into long-term care. And these business growth suite that we offer, payment processing is one of the tools that we're sharing with you today, or talking about the security side of things. But ultimately, the category Cash Practice falls into is this area of helping you grow the practice. And I'm sharing with you not just that, but the incredible reviews we have and the success stories we have relative to some of the other players in the market that are out there for you to choose from. Or Dr. Tony Ebel. I'm sure you know Dr. Tony Ebel. He runs the pediatric experience. He's pretty well known in the industry. And he goes on to say Cash Practice Systems makes it insanely simple and easy for us. And these are essential, or those are essential elements to running an impactful and thriving practice. That's why I recommend Cash Practice to every doctor. And again, Dr. Jason Day, again, sharing with him his thoughts about his growth of his practice. I would love to encourage you to book a call with us and learn how not just Cash Practice can help you grow your practice, but also help secure your practice from the standpoint of the topics we spoke about today. We ensure that you will go ahead and have the ability to make sure you can rest easy at night, not worrying about whether you're going to have embezzlement and theft happen, in addition to just growing the practice. Holly, any last words you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I encourage you guys to book a consult call with our revenue growth specialist team. In addition, they're happy to offer you a no obligation competitive rate analysis. We're very proud to say that we can match or beat 99% of our competitors while still providing 5-star customer support and service compared to what's out there. So scan that QR code or go to cashpractice.com/success. And we look forward to being of service to you. You guys, thank you so much for joining myself and Dr. Miles Bodson. We hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.